Hi, today I will tell you about the education system in Russia, Ukraine and Belarus. I'll talk about how children are turned into zombies, how they are punished for standing out, how they are taught to submit to authority figures, love the homeland, and how the history is rewritten. How children are turned into zombies. The education system in our countries, like many other things, was inherited from the Soviet Union and hasn't undergone significant development. Our education system is designed to make children sit for 5-7 hours in one building and engage in something very boring. It's like preparing for a future job where you will also do something monotonous and uninteresting for a whole day. You must be ready for this, because the state is preparing workers who can be paid just a little more than the minimum wage and who won't complain. In general, the country prepares children for monotonous and dull work for a minimal pay. Indeed, 99% of school lessons involve simply learning some rules and copying exercises into notebooks without any understanding of why you need it. School uniform and appearance rules for students. In all our schools, wearing a school uniform is mandatory. Usually it is strict suit for boys and pants or skirts with blouses for girls. If you think this looks stylish and beautiful, you are mistaken. Most often it looks like this. This is supposedly done to make children dress the same and avoid bullying based on family wealth, but unfortunately it hasn't worked. Since parents themselves buy this uniform for their children, everyone understands that wealthier parents can buy a good and expensive suit for their child, while those less fortunate will wear their older sibling's suit or something bought at a second-hand store or a market, as their parents can't afford anything more expensive. And yeah, you can't come to school without the uniform, otherwise you will send home. When you grow up, you realize that this school uniform is also part of preparing children for office work, where you will have to wear similar clothing, or for working in a factory or somewhere else, where there is still a uniform and you have to wear it every day. You can't stand out in any way. What about teenage rebellion? We have all been or are teenagers, and we know what it's like to want to stand out from the crowd and do something differently. Well, in our schools none of this is allowed. You can't dye your hair, wear piercings or tattoos, wear bright clothes or makeup, paint your nails and so on. This is called rules of decency. When I was in school, I had a piercing, and they sent me to the principal's office because of it and deprived my class teacher from the award. There was also a story where I was taken to the principal's office for wearing a hoodie with the US flag. This was after classes and we were talking about the flag specifically. And this was long before the general hatred for the West from the government and propaganda. You can choose the subjects you study. In school, everyone learns the same things regardless of their plans for the future. The number of lessons for each subject is determined for you, and none of the teachers can explain why you need to study the subjects they teach. If you are interested in a particular subject and want to learn it in depth, you have to do it on your own. Because of this lack of understanding, many children often don't take school very seriously. Respect for the teacher. Did you know that in our schools, when a teacher enters the class, everyone must stand up and you can sit only after the teacher allows it? Every time a teacher or a school staff member enters a class, you have to stand up and wait for a signal to sit down. Sitting is also done in a specific way, like this. And we were taught this from the first grade. How to sit, how to raise your hand to ask something or answer, how to ask permission to go to the restroom. All of this must be done correctly. Also, you can't argue with the teacher because they know better. Patriotic classes. This topic is relevant only to Russia and Belarus. This is a recent innovation that has caused many thoughtful parents to not want their children to attend public schools. And some parents even leave the country to prevent their children from being brainwashed. In these classes, children are taught to love their country and are told about everything that our government has done to make them live in such a wonderful country. Teachers also tell them that the terrible West wants to take away their homeland and that they must be ready to defend it. Recently, people from the law enforcement sector often come to schools and conduct lessons, telling students that protests are bad and the government is doing everything right. There have even been events where children were taught to suppress protests, dressed in riot police uniform and taught to beat people with batons. These are the innovations in our schools nowadays. Rewriting history. In Belarus and Russia, since the beginning of the war in Ukraine, the governments have started rewriting the history of the countries and printing new books for schools, including new exam questions based on this history. In Belarus, for example, students now learn about the genocide of the Belarusian people by the Poles, and in Russia, the recent history and topics about the special military operation, its reasons and goals. And of course, it wouldn't be complete without the bloodthirsty West and NATO, who want to conquer Russia and Belarus because they don't like how well these countries are doing. And now the admission of students to higher education institutions depends on their knowledge of these topics. Characteristics from school to university admissions. Recently in Belarus, along with the diploma, each school must provide a characteristic for each applicant. This characteristic must now include the information about the person's attitude to the state and homeland, as well as person's initiative to participate in state holidays. That's all for today. If you are interested in the topic of education in Russia, Ukraine and Belarus, feel free to comment about it. Thank you for watching and have a good day. Don't forget to watch another videos.